Shalom lekulam. Welcome to our first lesson for intermediate Kabbalah. We're going to start talking about a concept that is very important as you study Kabbalah. And the reason this concept is very important is because in Kabbalah we tend to divide and describe the whole system of creation into different parts. And as Kabbalists, we want to make sure that we understand that the whole system is one, the whole system is not separate parts. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about a concept that is found in Devarim chapter 4 verse 35, and is the concept of there's no one else besides him. So there's no one else other than the Creator. Everything that happens in our lives, all around us, it's caused by the Creator. And in the world we're living in a world in which everything is dual, everything is good and bad, everything is black or white. In the world we're living, we need to understand that all these divisions and everything that we see as divisions in physical reality is created by our own mind, by the way we see things, and also by the kind of consciousness that we have. A person that is conscious and connected with spirituality will see that there's only one force, there's only one creator, as we call it in Kabbalah. In religion, they call this force God, and you're gonna hear the same concept as Ein Od Milvado. In this way, there's no other God besides him. However, in religion, you will find that this concept is not well respected. It's believed in some religions that there are other forces that are against him, and they work against him, and therefore there's a battle or a war between him and those forces. And the reason for that is that the Bible, the Torah itself, uses that language, and that language, we have to understand that the Torah was written in the language of branches, which is the language of humanity at our level. So in order to explain these concepts as these forces against each other working in order to push humanity to become basically similar to the Creator, they needed to explain it like there was a war, like there's a war between God and Amalek, for example. That there's a war, if you go to the Christian circles, you're gonna find there's a war between God or Jesus and the devil. There's always this good and bad, good against evil all the time. And in reality, for the Kabbalist, we don't see this as a war, but as a interaction of forces that somehow are helping human beings advance towards spirituality. And we need to understand this concept of Ein Od Milvado the following way: that when we feel kind of like rejected by the Creator, when we feel like we are opposite, or when we feel that there's not even a God out there that I can pray, that God might not even exist, that it might be all, fantasy and all that, those kind of thoughts are created by something that the Creator has put in our mind. And it's kind of like a program. Some Kabbalists, modern Kabbalists, they call it a virus in our mind, and that force actually makes us have these kind of negative thoughts, and these negative thoughts are basically what we call Hasatan, the oppositor. the one that when you want to advance, spiritually, it gives you a kind of like a thought that will make you question your actions. Or if you want to learn, for example, a subject or about spirituality, or if you want to learn a method like Kabbalah, it will put doubts. It will put a reason for you not to continue studying or continue achieving what you want to achieve spiritually. You might feel like, I'm tired, I don't have enough time. This is like a long thing that I have to do. Basically, I have to study every day in order to understand this. Can I get everything in 1 hour? And those kind of thoughts is basically the Hasatan, the oppositor, the virus in your mind, telling you that it's more important what the body feels, what the mind is thinking, than what the soul needs and wants, which is be enlightened by receiving the light of the Creator. And that's something we need to keep ourselves in check all the time, about the oppositor that is in us. You will know it in the Hebrew scriptures in Judaism as a Yetzer Hara, is the evil side in man. There's also the Yetzer Hatov, which is a good side in man. And according to the Genesis story, this force started having affecting us, and especially in the way we think, in the way we see things, when Adam and Chava, Eve, ate from the tree of good and evil. And it still affects us today. That serpent mindset is still in us. So if you find yourself studying Kabbalah and finding it kind of like not boring, but kind of like too lengthy for me to learn it, and kind of stuff, remember, that's that seed, the serpent seed, is there in order to make you go the other way. And that serpent seed, when we say there's no one else beside him, was put there by the Creator himself. For example, have you ever asked yourself, what was the serpent doing in the Garden of Eden in the first place? Who put it there? The Creator put the serpent there. Why, if the Creator knows everything, he's almighty, why he didn't know that the serpent was gonna do what it was gonna do with Adam and Eve, trick them into sinning? Why the Creator didn't intervene? Because there was a plan. The serpent is a program implanted in us with a plan, with a reason. There's a purpose for everything. And when we say there's no one else beside him, we mean there's no one else besides the Creator. Whatever is happening, whether it's good or bad, is the Creator that has actually sent it to us. In life, we're going to find ourselves in situations that we are not happy. For example, in Kabbalah, we talk a lot about the concept of suffering. And when we talk about suffering, we don't talk only about the physical suffering. We talk also about the emotional, mental. But most of the time we refer to the spiritual suffering, in which our desire for creation, it's asking basically to, the desire for the light is asking to basically for the light to fulfill us, to fulfill our vessel. Our lack of light make us suffer spiritually, and that's something that we need to understand when it comes to studying Kabbalah. That we're dividing all these things into Sefirot, into Parsufin, into Olamot, into the worlds and all that, and the spheres of the tree of life. But everything is one system. Everything is a whole system. If you study Kabbalah seriously, you're gonna find that a lot of the parts of this system that we call the creation, according to the method of Kabbalah, you're gonna find that in certain cultures in the world, they worship some of the parts of this system. And but in Kabbalah, we know that that's a part, it's not the whole. So we don't worship parts of the whole thing. We don't even worship the whole thing. We just want to connect to the whole thing, which is the difference between a religious person and a spiritual person. The religious person wants or think is connecting through rituals, prayers, by praising and doing offerings to certain deities. And when in reality, the whole purpose is for you to connect with a bigger force, the force of one, not the force of the many. So we need to connect with that force of the Aleph. The force of the Aleph is the word, is the force of the world of Atzilut, the Aleph of Atzilut. And we don't worship anything that has to do with the Ain, which is the world of Asiya, the whole physical reality here. And we don't see anything as parts that we need to use in order for us to advance spiritually. We use the whole thing. We see everything as a whole system. Okay, so that's the whole thing, the whole meaning of there's no one else beside him. We need to understand that when we want to control things, and we think we're under control of certain things, there's something that is going to happen that is going to go against our own nature or our own desire. And that is not bad luck. That is not, I was born with bad luck or anything like that. Some people say, is the Creator sending you some kind of message through those things that are happening in your life for you to understand that everything is basically managed and controlled by Him. Okay? Why are we suffering if there's only one Creator and He wants me to advance spiritually? Why am I suffering? Why He doesn't stop the suffering and make it go and make me unite with Him in an easier way? And the reason is, that mystery is studying Kabbalah, and the reason for that is that we don't see that. We're blind into the goodness of the Creator, because the Creator wants exactly that. But we're so separated from each other. I see myself as myself. You see yourself as yourself. You see others as others. But we don't see ourselves as one. The day that all of us start seeing ourselves as one, we're going to see that there's no one else beside Him. That there's no me, there's we. And when that we becomes, us, we're going to see the Creator manifesting through us. And because that's the other law that we have studied in the beginner's lesson, that we need to achieve in order to connect with the Creator, is loving our fellow human beings as ourselves. Okay? And that's a law that we need to achieve. And that's the whole point of Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a method not for us to advance spiritually by ourselves. It's a method for us to advance collectively, as a collective soul, as that Adam Harishon that we were when we were in the Garden of Eden. And the method of Kabbalah, as said by the Kabbalists of the past and modern Kabbalists, is a method that is going to help humanity advance properly and more rapidly towards the Messianic age. And the reason is because people are more interested into connecting with the Creator, or with that force that controls everything, in a more deeper way. And religion, science, and things like that, they're not helping people connect that way. There's still the suffering of the soul. They still feel this void, and that void can only be filled by the light of the Creator. It cannot be filled by knowledge, power only, or philosophies, or anything like that. And the method of Kabbalah is a method that will help us advance in that way. Okay, so The creator uh, basically has made a three-step plan. Uh, and when I say a three-step plan, this is, in order for you to understand this, not necessarily 3 steps. It might be more. As we have said before, it's 125 steps towards the ladder, but that's the way we see it in order for us to understand the different levels or degrees and to achieve adhesion with the creator, or to achieve what we call similarity with the creator. So the first step is basically he made what we call creation. And creation is not what we see in the book of Genesis only. There's a lot of things that happen before the book of Genesis, and that's where we're going to be talking in this intermediate lesson about these things that happen before the book of Genesis starts. And we're going to talk about how the development of creation happened to the point that the breaking of the vessels happened. What are the names of all those systems that were created in order to correct the breaking of the vessels? And then there's a part where the book of Genesis starts, where the book of Genesis basically when things start correcting. Even though when you look at the book of Genesis, seems like everything is descending instead of advancing. Basically, it's an advancement, but it's an advancement that we call the 6,000 years of correction, which we are very close now to the end of those 6,000 years. Okay, but let's start talking about this. So you have creation. It contains everything that will become in the future a soul. Okay, meaning it has all the ingredients, everything that we need in order for us to achieve spirituality in the world that we're living right now. And there's a teaching inside Judaism and the Talmud, and also Kabbalah teaches about it, that every man should think that the whole creation was made for him only. And it's because we need to understand that everything that the creator made was in order for us to advance. So if I think that everything was created because of me, I will take advantage of it, I will give it more value, and I will understand better the purpose of creation. So once we study this step, how basically the whole thing cascaded to a point in which a soul is born, the birth of the soul is born. Inside this chapter 2, if you want to call it that way, of creation, this is where the whole drama, the whole thing that's going to happen after the breaking of the vessel, and or after the first tzimtzum, second tzimtzum, which we're going to cover, the breaking of the vessel, and then the birth of the world and the birth of Adam Harishon, which is Adam from the Adam in the Bible. All this is that drama. The drama is on chapter 2. At this moment, we're still on chapter 2. Our goal is to go to the next chapter, which is a soul in great potential and similarity with the Creator. And that will happen after we achieve the corrections of the 6,000 years, which you will understand that as we go on. And that's basically what we are going to explain in these intermediate lessons. But very important to keep in mind as we're studying this is that there's no one else besides him. Even though we're going to talk about different parts, everything is one. Even though we're dividing creation into 3 steps here, everything is one creation. From the point of view of the Creator, all this is happening, all this happened, all this will happen. From our point of view, it happened in the past, it's still happening today, but we don't see the future yet. But how do we know the future? How we know we can achieve this great potential is because by his actions we know him. I don't know if you remember in one of the lessons in one of the beginners lessons, I mentioned that when you study Kabbalah, you're gonna see that creation is like a fractal. You're gonna see in a small part the whole, and then when you look at the whole, you're gonna see that it's a small part of a bigger whole. So it's a fractal, and that's something that is you're gonna find it very interesting as you study Kabbalah. So there's a symbol that we use in Kabbalah, and that's a tree of life. The tree of life was adopted because of the famous Etz Hachaim tree of life that is in Genesis. But there's also another symbol that we use, and that symbol comes from the ladder that Jacob saw as he was sleeping, and he has this vision of a ladder going towards heaven, and there were angels coming up and down. So in Kabbalah, you're gonna hear about the steps of the ladder, or the rungs of the ladder, and the first thing that in Kabbalah we teach is how we came down here. We came down here to Asiya, the physical world, by going through different steps, and those steps are basically what we call the development of the desires, the development of the kli, the development of the vessel. So I want you to understand that this was covered in the beginner's lesson, but we're gonna cover it again but more in depth. We're gonna add things to it. We're gonna add language, the language of branches. You're gonna learn certain terms in Hebrew, and it will help you better understand what we're talking about. So whenever I say kli, you can understand means a vessel. When I say or, is light, and things like that. And then you're gonna understand Keter, Chot, Mabina, Serampin, and Malchut, and what they mean, what level they represent, and all that. And also that each of these level represents a soul level as well. But we need to understand the dynamic of desire. And like I said, we covered this in a lesson in the beginners series. But we're gonna cover it again, because from now on, the intermediate, we're gonna put all these parts together, but each part, like I said, is part of the bigger whole, and we're gonna talk about that part and take you to the bigger whole now. So the first thing you need to understand is the relationship between a vessel and the light. All right. So the light is basically what we call shefa, abundance. You may call it also life. So light equals life. As a Kabbalist, you need to understand when a physical body or a spiritual body has life, is because there's light in them. For example, we move, we walk around because there's an electric energy making our bodies move. Our brain work, the brain works with electricity. Our muscles, they flex because of electrical pulses that we have inside our body, and they're generated constantly. And that light is a light that is at the level of what we call Asiya, and it's a nefesh of the nefesh. All right, and we're gonna understand that these different levels of souls exist in us, and we're gonna see how can we attain other levels, higher levels of the soul. If I have a nefesh of nefesh, which is the animal soul, is there something else there? Is there something that's what gives an animal life, right? So what else is there? What makes me think? What makes me emotional? What makes me start questioning things about life? Like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I suffering? Is there a God? Um, why we're so greedy? Why are we destroying nature and we don't even care? Why we're into consumerism and not into consuming, but at the same time um, helping nature, basically having, instead of vicious cycle, having a cycle that is healthy both for us and also for nature and all that kind of stuff. Why am I asking those questions right now? Is because there's a higher level, not only the animal level, we also have what is called a human level. But the human level, that doesn't mean that you are already in a spiritual level. It just means that you have attained a level of understanding, but yet there might not be any wisdom or connection with spirituality at all. And that can only be achieved as you work and as you develop, as you study also uh, uh, these uh, these different levels of spirituality, different degrees in the ladder towards spirituality. And you will see that these levels of soul are achievable, but they're achievable only if we follow the laws of there's no one else besides him, and a very important law that is basically the whole Torah, which is love your fellow human beings as yourself. Okay? So we are the Kli. We are the Kli. So we are this vessel. And we use the term vessel because we needed a symbol. The Kabbalists needed a symbol in order to describe something that receives. So what better symbol than that of a cup, a bowl that receives oil, wine, water, and that light coming in, will be received by this vessel, and this vessel will actually interact with the light, and inside this vessel a lot of things happen. The things that happened there is because of the interaction that the vessel start having with the light. The light is the same. The light will never change. It's like you put white light through a clear mirror, what you're gonna get is white light. But if you put a red mirror and you put a white light behind that mirror or glass, what you're gonna see is red light. If you put a blue mirror in front of that light, you're gonna see blue light. If you put the red and the blue, you're probably gonna see purplish, light. And that's basically how you're gonna see that the vessel interacts with the light. The light's still the same. It's the vessel and its different levels inside that vessel that the light's gonna be seen in different ways. For example, the light comes from something that we don't know. It's called Atzmuto, the essence. We in Kabbalah we describe it as the secrets of the Torah, which means we don't talk about it because we don't know anything about it. But we know there's light. We know that light comes to the vessel somehow. And we call it basically Shoresh. Shoresh means root. So that's the root of all that is going to be created. And that's basically, if you want to call it, the creator. At this moment, that's the creator, okay? Eventually, you're going to see that we're going to be calling the creator this part. But remember, all this is not parts. This is all one, okay? But that's what I'm saying. We call this a creator, but then we're going to be talking about this as the creator. And it's because even though we have different stages here, all these stages are one. Well, we're dividing it in order to understand how we are where we are, okay? So Shoresh is the root of everything. It's from the Sephirah keter. Keter means crown. It's pure desire to give. And in the name Yod He Vav He, YHVH, that's the tip of this letter here, the Yod. It's the beginning. That's why it's just a dot. Okay? So nothing is being created there yet. It's just pure light. It's pure, abundant light. Okay? Then after that, the Creator wanted to basically manifest His goodness. His goodness, His holiness, as I say, to something. And in advanced Kabbalah, they talk about if there was no desire here, to only desire to give, where that desire came from. Why the Creator had a need to transfer this type of abundance to something. But that's advanced Kabbalah. That's not for intermediate right now. But it's something that if you have an advanced book in Kabbalah, you can delve into, and it's really interesting to study it, and a lot of thinking. But it created, for now, let's just think, it created this vessel, this recipient, and that recipient was made out of, if we have light in the beginning, what created that recipient? And that's when Kabbalists, we have some that say, well, the vessel is created by light, it's just a different type of light. Others say, well, it was created out of nothing. And others say, where was that nothing? If you can create something out of nothing, that means that nothing is something. And there's all these kind of philosophical things that we're not gonna delve into in order not to confuse ourselves. But this stage here is the first desire to receive. The only difference is that this desire to receive is dependent, and basically it depends on what the Creator wants it to do, which is receive. And that's what we call the first stage, Aleph. Aleph means A, or number one in Hebrew, and it represents the Sephirah Chokmah. Chokmah is wisdom. So it also represents the letter Yod in the name Yohevaheh, the name of God, Yohevaheh. And we already have here the first ingredient of stage one right here. Okay? What we have here is something called Or Chokmah. And Or Chokmah, we're going to see, plays a great deal on creation. And they say that Or Chokmah is a very terrible light, in the sense, that it's a light that, like it says here, is a desire to receive, pure desire to receive. But then there comes a desire that is developed after that vessel, and that desire is actually a second desire. Thus the letter Beit. Beit means B, and Hebrew is also the number 2, and it is represented by Bina, Sephirah Bina, which is understanding, and it's pure desire to give without receiving, and it's also represented by the letter He in the name Yohevaheh. And in this stage, the vessel desires, I am receiving, and it senses, if I'm receiving, I want to be like this over here. I want to give. I want to be in this stage. And so there you can see already that there's a desire to be similar to the Creator. So think about the light of Bina, which is going to be called Or Hasidim as we get deeper into our study. Or Chokmah and Or Hasidim. And what it does is it stops receiving in order to give to the Creator. But something happened there, because the vessel understands, if I stop receiving, not only stop basically existing, because remember, light is life. If there's no light coming into the vessel would disappear, become one again with the light, in the sense that it would disappear into the light. So it decides, I need to receive in order to give back, and that's stage Gimel, and is represented by Serampin. It is a desire to receive, to give, and represented by the letter Vav in the Yohe-Vahe. But Serampin, it has something in there that we, in the beginning, we just talked about. We talk about 6,000 years, right, of correction. Serampin has 6 vessels in it. Chesed, which is mercy; Geburah, which is judgment; Tifaret, beauty; Hod, Netzach, which is victory and splendor; Yesod, which is foundation. And those Sephirah are inside the Parsufin Serampin. Okay? So this is something that is already making the stage for something in the future. The soul in great potential, right? So when the birth of the soul happened, and we have to work in the 6,000 years of correction, everything is already set up right here. But if we have set the stage already, we have basically what the Creator wants us to do, to receive His delight, His abundance, what we want to do as well, which is we want to be like Him. We want to be bestowers, and we want to be givers. And He has given us basically the map to achieve that. By combining these two, something happened. The vessel then realizes, I have achieved something, and I have achieved a desire not only to be like the Creator, but to be the Creator. And it starts receiving everything. It becomes pure, independent desire to receive. In the beginning, remember here, the vessel was receiving, but it was dependent on the desire to receive from the Creator, right? In this level here, which is represented by the Hey, level Dalit, which is the 4th level, but in reality is the 5th level. It's called Malchut. And Malchut, in Malchut, that Sephirah, which means kingdom, is where everything that we're going to be studying from now on, it's going to happen. Okay? So everything that we know in our human history, in our prehistory, in our pre-prehistory, all the way to the Big Bang and all that, it happened inside this level called Malchut. And something that we need to keep in mind is that that vessel, which is the vessel of Malchut, according to the Kabbalists, specifically in the next class we're gonna read a little bit about it, the book Etz Chaim by Chaim Vital. He wrote Etz Chaim based on the teachings of the Arizal, and in Etz Chaim, Chaim Vital explains how that vessel Malchut felt basically kind of like a shame for receiving so much, and he did a restriction at Tzimtzum, and that Tzimtzum created different levels inside that restriction itself, different levels of interactions with the light, and that's what we're gonna study in this intermediate series. That happened when the vessel Malchut here, this level, was receiving a lot. It became a shame. And why we say shame, and this will be the end of the lesson. I'm gonna finish the lesson with this, the way the Kabbalists explain. So imagine that you are sitting in the table of someone that invites you to his or her home, and they cook this nice and beautiful dinner just for you, and it's just for you. They want to give it to you. You have choices here. You can receive it because the creator, in this case, the person that cooked the food, gave it to you, but you're doing it in a dependent way. Basically, it's like you were forced to eat it, you know, and you feel no pleasure in there. There's no pleasure in that, right? Uh, so you decide, you know what? There's one way that I can feel pleasure, and it's like the person is feeling pleasure in seeing me eating. But what if no, 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 thank you very much for all the food that you have made, but I don't want to eat, and in my mind, I'm receiving pleasure because I feel I'm a good person, I'm not abusing you, I'm just don't want the food. I know you made a good effort and everything, but I'm not hungry at this moment. But then he realizes, you know what? I am hungry. I want to eat. And then the person understands, I can make a different calculation here. In order to make, because when I say I don't want it, thank you, even though you make that effort, the person that gives is not feeling happy at that moment, right? So in order for both of us to feel happy, so I can fulfill my hunger, basically eat, and fulfill also the other person by making them happy for seeing me eating their food, I decide then to eat a little in order to give pleasure to the person that cooked the food for me. But what happened? Even though I didn't want it to eat a lot because, I don't want to like destroy the relationship and this nice feeling we have with each other, I realized that this food is better than I thought. And not only I want the whole food, I want everything. I start eating, satisfying only my desire, not worrying about the desire of the other. I want both desire. I want the desire to satisfy myself, and I want the desire of also, that person in me. Basically, I become the biggest egoistic at that moment. Uh, and I eat everything. After I start eating everything, I open my eyes, I look at the person, I go like, oops, this is not good. So I feel ashamed, all right? I feel ashamed that I've been eating all your food and I haven't even given you thanks, which is an exchange right there, right? And that's when I do a restriction. I stop, I feel ashamed, and I start making something called, if you want to call it, just to give it a name, teshuvah, which is kind of like repenting myself. But there's some inner works that have to be done in order for that to be real. And that inner work is what the Kabbalists say that happen inside that vessel. The first restriction is called Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means restriction. Aleph means first. Tzimtzum Alef. This is, remember, Dalet, which is this here. What Dalet does in that restriction creates this screen, a masach in the top, in order to receive a little and reject the rest. So now I'm gonna start working my way to fixing this relationship with the person that is giving me the food. So now what I'm gonna do, stop eating. Let me take a portion first. Let me eat that portion, and the rest, then I take a bigger portion. And according to that, I build a relationship with the person to the point that I don't feel ashamed, and the person doesn't feel I'm taking advantage of the situation and all that. That's in Tzimtzum Aleph. Eventually, you're gonna see that this relationship still breaks apart, and that's what we're gonna study. And there's a Tzimtzum Bet that needs to happen. Like a friend of mine said, instead of calling it the breaking of the vessel, you can call it, if you use that the the dining metaphor. You can call it the breaking of the ditches, you know. But we're gonna go to little by little to those different aspects of this relationship between the vessel and the light. And in the next lesson, what we're gonna cover the inner part of the vessel. When the light is restricted, how a system is created inside the vessel so the vessel can then interact with the light in a proper way and then manifest something that we call today physical reality, basically how we fell down here. Inside this vessel, we're basically down here in the bottom, the very bottom down here. All right, this is a whole system, and this system, I'm gonna give you a preview. It's called Olam Adan Kadmon. So in Tzimtzum Alef, when this happened, the restriction, the first world was created, and that world contains all the other worlds, and that world, the world is known Adan Kadmon. So this here is Adan Kadmon, okay, and this is where everything that we're gonna study is located. And for those of you that are curious, book of Genesis, Bereshit, where does it start? It starts like around here, and then the rest, it's 6,000 years. Okay, so I hope you join me again in the second lesson. And the second lesson, like I said, we're gonna go deeper and deeper. So make notes, and if you're interested as well, you can send me an email through the website www.receivingtheupperlight.com, and if you want a PDF versions of these drawings, I can send it to you through the email. I'm saving all these drawings and identify them just to make sure that in case someone wants the drawings and that they got lost. It happened to me when I was studying Kabbalah, and I got lost. I didn't have the whole information. There was no way to go back. But at least, with this, you can have the pictures and everything. They're made by me, so I'm the guy that did all the drawings, so you can have them. I'm not gonna ask for copyright or permissions or anything like that. But anyway, www.receivingtheupperlight.com. Send me an email in the contact tab, and I can send them to you, so you have something where you can make notes while you watch these lessons again. Okay, so see you on lesson 2. In lesson 2, we're gonna cover Adan Kadmon and also the inverse relationship between the lights and the vessels. So shalom lekulam and leitraut. See you later.